Seeing that it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting of the Enfield Select Board to order, and we'll start with the approval of the minutes.
Unfortunately, did not get.
I was gonna say.
So you don't have that.
Okay, and I was like,
So
I'm
we're
not
gonna
sure I
wait
recall
till
seeing
next
them, because I did read the packet, so I didn't see them. We're gonna dispense with that, and put it on to next time. Going on to board reports, Eric.
Right, let's see, the planning board has not met since our last meeting, we meet on Wednesday, but TIF did. And, we have a sort of drafted project list that Rob's finalizing, and it'll be on the ballot, hopefully. So that's moving forward with putting together an updated TIF plan, so we can start utilizing that program going forward. And the only other thing is, one of the members is moving out of town sometime this year, so we're looking for a new member for the TIP committee. If anybody is, interested. Who's moving? Ben Shapiro is my understanding, but he has not resigned. He simply said they intend to move. So he's still a member until.
Alex?
Eva met last week and, they were kind of debriefing and comparing notes on all the events that happened over the holiday season. What went wrong, what could be improved for next year. They're gearing up for their, annual appeal and, getting together the cadence of meetings for the Shaker 7. And the Heritage Commission did not meet, and they're not meeting in January due to several conflicts with members, like scheduling conflicts.
Thank you. John?
The Budget Committee had a lengthy and vigorous meeting, much discussion, obviously, of the tax rate coming up and many citizens' response to that. Quite a bit of concern in the Budget Committee about, is that the right figure, looking at 5% or so. I think the majority of the committee feels it is the right figure and necessary for, to keep our employees. There is some pushback. And we're gonna discuss it further at the next meeting. Dan, would you add anything to that? You were there?
I'm not gonna add anything. I believe there's pushback.
There you go. Yeah. Vigorous.
Vigorous pushback.
Yes, indeed.
I'll add a little bit in my report.
Okay.
Tracy?
Energy Committee has not met since we last did. I've got a meeting coming up. And MFAC has met, but I'm gonna leave that to Ed to bring the board up to speed on the last meeting of the MFAC committee with regard to Whitney Hall. Wasn't much of a meeting really, but
I have a couple things on there.
I just add for energy, I know you nicely announced last time that the rate was going down and that takes effect in February, the
correct.
new rate. So that's pretty exciting for folks down to
It is.
8.1 cents
Yes,
for the actual energy itself, not the fee by fo fund from Liberty.
no, and I will note that a lot of that is due because two members of our Energy Committee are on the state board.
Yeah.
And so we have a nice point of entry to influence how that goes with the community power statewide.
Conservation Commission met at the beginning of the month, which I already reported on, and their next meeting will be February 1st. Shirley Green is the new chair of conservation, and we're looking forward to doing a number of projects going into the new year that are continuing projects and also really leaning into looking at stormwater with Soak Up the Rain. And that is it for that one. Do you guys have any questions for each other? Comments? Okay, questions or comments from the public? Okay. Moving on to town manager's report. Ed?
Yeah, so staff report, not a lot's changed. We're continuing to work to hire 2 new police officers. It does look like we have one that we're probably gonna be making an offer to. They have one last psychological test that they're
they're moving towards, but everything else has looked good and we're optimistic that we'll be able to make an offer of employment soon. And continuing, like I said, last meeting, we've had several applicants for the police assistant position and expect to have that position filled within the next week. Roy did add that will make his police officers very happy, so they don't have to stand outside and direct traffic at the school. And then I'd like to welcome Dan Quimby. DPW did hire Dan Quimby as our janitor building maintenance specialist, and he started work today. So we're happy to have him on board and to have that position filled again, and look forward to moving that position forward and getting our buildings maintained adequately. As I reported last time, I'll report again that we have open positions for election. The filing period starts Wednesday, January 24th and runs through February 2nd. What we have for 1 year is 1 budget committee member, 2 years, 1 budget committee member, and 1 supervisor of the checklist. For 3 years, 2 selectmen, 1 trustee of trust funds, 1 cemetery trustee, 1 library trustee, 2 zoning board of adjustment members, and 3 budget committee members. For 4 years, 1 supervisor of the checklist, and for 6 years, 1 supervisor of the checklist.
There's 3 years, 4 year positions.
Is it?
That's posted.
That's not right.
Well, we might need to fix that then.
Pull that off the list.
Oops. Oh, continuous improvement, we'll fix it,
All
right?
right, yep, we'll fix it and get it out. There's still a position available.
Oh, for supervisors.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's fine.
That's
I thought
fine.
you were talking about the other.
Yeah, supervisors are
Yeah.
typically
They're
6.
6 years. I don't have a range.
And if anybody wants to get trained over the years for that, that's one that's a important commitment for us. I think we should also thank Nancy for her, I don't know how many years, but it's at least 18.
A number, I don't know. A
So,
lot.
yeah, it's a big commitment and we're definitely thankful.
So Whitney Hall and Public Safety Building updates. I'd like to thank those who attended the groundbreaking ceremony for Whitney Hall last week. It was technically our MVAC meeting as well, but it was nice to finally get there and celebrate the kickoff of that project. Along with that, we had our first official construction meeting this last Friday. Things are moving forward okay. We're getting demolition is well underway. The electricians were there stripping everything out on Friday and doing a pretty good job of that. I think the plumbers were gonna be there this week to start stripping the old plumbing, and so that's moving along well. We're working with DES trying to get our shoreland permit finalized. We did apply and they've asked for more information, which we got them, and we're hoping within the next week or so that we get that shoreland permit, then we can actually break ground for excavation and construction of the new addition. So that's where we're at on the Whitney Hall building. Public safety building, I'm gonna say we're still in the data collection phase, but we're final details. We really got the floor plan nailed down, the electrical, mechanical. We will be having a meeting tomorrow talking about some color schemes and those types of things that we'll present, but I guess in the construction world, they're working on the final RFPs to go out, and we continue to get trickle in of information on cost. The good news is we were well over budget, and as costs trickle in, we're getting closer and closer to that, what I would call striking distance. So we may have to have a similar conversation that we had on Whitney Hall, but we're getting closer to that budget number, and hopefully we get there soon. The budget committee, I was gonna talk about that a little bit. They continue to study and debate the budget and the goal of getting the proposed budget and tax rate as low as we can while still maintaining the current service levels to the town of Enfield. We will be having a meeting Thursday, as John said, and I'll be presenting some other possible changes that we can do to lower the tax rate a little bit more. At least of last Thursday, the general fund budget proposed was 7.5% increase in the general fund budget. And it was about 17.5, mid-17s on the total overall increase with CIP and the the building projects coming online. We are bringing online all of Whitney Hall loan and a little portion of the public safety building loan this year. So it's a pretty big increase there, but that's to be expected with those bond rates. The budget committee did ask me to do some work that we're working on getting what some of the surrounding towns are doing for raises, and then what we can get for proposed budget increases from other towns. I've gotten some information back. We have 7 local people on raises. It looks like all of their raises are falling in between the 3% and 5% range, leaning towards the 4% to 5% range. And then proposed budget increases, I only have 4 back so far, but so far the lowest proposed budget increase I have is 7.5% from other towns. So we're kind of in the ballpark on that as well, but we'll continue to work to get that as low as possible. That's where we're at on budget. Police department, I'd like to thank the chief and his staff for working on grants some more. They received a TASER grant for the 2nd year that'll help offset the cost of tasers and body cameras and the digital upload ability of those. So it's good to get some grants and offset that cost for us. Just to give you guys an update on the legal review, Johnston property recommendation and short-term rental ordinance should be done really soon. I actually got a copy back of the short-term rental ordinance over the weekend. I have not had a chance to review it yet, but there'll be some minor recommended changes to that to bring back to the board before we push it in front of the voters. You should see that in your next select board packet. And then DPW updates, they met with the FEMA project manager to upload expenses for the declared July storm disaster. So it's good that we're continuing to work on that. The surplus police cruiser was listed for auction and sold for $4,750. So nice to get that off the books and get a little bit of money back. And then the Tree City application for the town has been filed for the 15th straight year. So nice to get that done as well. And that's my town manager.
Questions or comments from the board?
I think Jim has the same thing.
Jim?
Question?
Oh,
Nothing.
No, he was just adjusting the camera.
Oh, okay.
Other than- so.
Does anyone in the audience have a question or comments for Ed on his reports? Any folks online? Okay, seeing them, we're gonna move along to the business of the evening and take a look at strategic planning. We're gonna take a look at a presentation and we'll watch and then we'll ask our questions afterward.
If you want to say anything, Russ, before I dive in?
No, I think, you've done all the
I'm sorry.
legwork and it's all there, so. I mean, everybody recalls what we did, so no sense in covering that again, right?
Yeah, we can review a little bit for the audience and the people at home, but I would like to thank Russ and Children Partners for the work that they did. There was a lot of background work since the last time we met at our retreat, a lot of paperwork going back and forth, a lot of time with staff as well, working on this. For the public, we met in June, I believe it was, and we had a pretty full half day of, some brainstorming and some different thought processes that come up with some strategic initiatives and things that we're going to be working on. So we'll see what those are in the PowerPoint. And then there's some objectives that we, the staff, came up with to kind of backfill the initiatives you guys came up with. And then in the part that I gave you, it's a real working draft at this point. I made some changes on it today, but Appendix C really breaks those initiatives down a little bit more into some bite-sized pieces and things that we could be working on to meet those initiatives. And I'll show that in the PowerPoint as well. So if you want to go ahead and pull it up and get started. So this is a little bit of that research process. In May, we talked to the town leaders. We had a couple meetings here. Like I said, in June, we did the retreat and did SWOT analysis, best analysis, and did some mapping of where we wanted to go. We reviewed master plan. I think that's important that we use the master plan. We've used some public comment and other data that we had moving forward to make this. This wasn't just something we made behind closed doors, if you will, even though it was an open public meeting. In August, we did some departmental strategy mapping. If you guys remember, we did 3 of the focus areas in the retreat, and then 2 of the focus areas we worked on with staff after that. In September, we did our operational review of tactics. We did some strategy work in November, December. We were making that matrix you've seen at the end, trying to get the timelines and cost figures that I'll show you some of that. I have those in here as well. And then in January, we're presenting to the board, and it'll actually move into February probably for approval, but you know, that's kind of the timeline we're working on. Just to explain, strategic planning is a process used by successful organizations to plan and evolve and shift the greater environment. It's really a target to work for. You know, a lot of times people have asked, you know, why do you have a strategic plan if you have a master plan? Master plans, you know, land use. Our master plan's moving a little past that with this phase 2, looking at things we can do and service levels in different areas, but it really focuses a little more on land use and things around land use until we move into those new chapters. But the strategic planning is a little bit more of a lot more of an operational plan. It gives staff direct operational guidelines and things to work towards. And so as I said, we will be using the master plan and the concepts from that and the public input from that as we move forward. But we're really trying to use this document to set forward that roadmap of reaching these strategic goals. It developed goals and tactics. It presents the implementation plan. We haven't created them all yet, but as we move through, once this plan is approved, we will create some key performance indicators and some performance metrics to monitor the plan and make sure that we're making strides in the right direction. I do plan, as we create those, to put some of those into the newsletter to make them forward facing on the website, and then also use those to write our town reports for the different departments to show that we're making those strides. With those performance metrics, they'll also allow us to know when we need to change tactics, when the goals are not being met. And then we will be reviewing the plan regularly to adapt the plan to the changing needs of the community. Go ahead. I kind of covered some of this, but some of the things we used was the master plan, select board directives and desires, department objectives. I could have put desires in there too, regional needs, community feedback, and other sources of information. So what we came up with, our vision as a town, is Enfield is a welcoming, engaged community that's focused on strategic growth while prioritizing the preservation of our natural resources, rural character, sense of community, unique heritage, and recreational assets. I think that really shined through in the master plan, that, you know, protecting those things was a very important part of our town. So the mission is to deliver exceptional municipal services and programs in an efficient manner that meet and exceed the expectations of the community now and into the future. Some of this you'll see in the plan is kind of coming up with what those expectations are and what those service levels are. And then our strategic statement is to achieve sustainable growth by providing residents, business partners, and our community the infrastructure, support, culture, and connection to thrive as the town continues to evolve. And I think it's important to look at all those, our residents, partners, businesses, and community. I mean, we're all in this together, and we've really strived over the past year, and you'll see that in the plan as well, to build our regional footprint and working with our towns and cities around us. So the strategic themes that we came up with, and you guys helped come up with these, was public safety, having a safe place to live, development of town culture, communication and community involvement, facilities and improvements, and operational efficiencies and technologies, which that part really leads into how the staff is operating in-house, but there's a little bit of outside technology use that we can do as well. So with that, we started with public safety. This is one of the statements that you guys kind of helped craft. I don't know if you've seen it in the final state, but public safety in Enfield will ensure all citizens remain healthy and safe in our public spaces with an emphasis on prevention, quick reaction, and a sustainable, safe community. Safety requires our infrastructure to accommodate safety for traffic, park, recreation, health infrastructure, and all community activity. We will do this through vigilant planning, tracking, and measuring proactive goals, as well as building the town infrastructure to support a safe community. So I think that's a really good statement to encompass safety in our town. Next. So the three things that you guys came up with for us to work on our strategic initiatives, if you will, is develop fire and EMS to meet current needs, implement community safety plan, and implement community education. So with that, we broke it down into some different objectives. Go ahead. So I just broke these out this way. Like I said, in Appendix C, you guys have a little bit more of a breakdown, but strategic initiative 1, broken out a little bit more, is develop Enfield's fire and EMS to meet the current and future needs in a more robust way. This can include full-time staffing or strategic partnerships with surrounding communities. That's what came out of our retreat. And then the objectives that staff came up with was to complete the construction of the public safety building, which we feel will create a sense of public pride and support. Objective 2 is initiate cross-training through all 3 departments. So one of our focuses have been to get police officers and firefighters trained to the EMT level so we can have more response on the ambulance side of things. And then as we talked through this, we said it would be good to get some of our EMS personnel and even police officers certified level 1 firefighters, if that's something that they'd like to do, just again, to help with response and to help bolster our emergency community. Objective 1.3 is to budget to incentivize officers and other emergency responders to complete cross-training and respond on and off duty to assist the fire department and fast squad. And then objective 4, build partnerships with surrounding communities to better understand their capabilities and needs and seek to create shared equipment and service plans that are viable with these partnerships. It's something we've been working on anyway. In the fire department, they have really good mutual aid and they have some of these lists of shared equipment, but looking at what other police departments have around us, I'm sure we have an idea, but having those lists built, I know I talked with Lebanon for a little while about even the possibility of a shared asset management program. So we all have access to what everybody has and know what's out there. So that may be something that we're working on as well. Next slide. Same objective, objective 5, or same strategic initiative, objective 5 is complete a comprehensive need assessment for all emergency services to understand future capacity and the gaps that must be fulfilled by forecasting and documenting future needs based on economics, demographics, population shifts that may occur. Objective 6 is to complete an operational analysis for creating and maintaining full-time staffing and infrastructure for Enfield's fire and EMS. I think with that, it may or may not be full-time staffing. I think it's really the study at that point of what we might need in fire and EMS. And then implement a fire and EMS recruitment marketing campaign to recruit paid on-call responders. So those are the initiatives that break down and that we'd like to work on. One of these that complete an operational analysis, I'll talk to you guys a little bit more and you can see it in the Appendix C that I gave you, but I do think it would be important after town meeting that we create another subcommittee to study the future of fire and EMS and those service needs in our community. I think that's something that those staff could probably do it. I think having that community buy-in and that community subcommittee would be extremely important. Next, strategic initiative 2 under public safety is to implement a community safety plan, including automotive and non-automotive infrastructure. This was a big discussion in our retreat of making our sidewalks and commuting around town, both in cars and out of cars, more safer. So, objective 1 is to reduce motor vehicle crashes caused by speed, distracted driving, and impaired driving by 5% annually. To do this, the police department will participate in the New Hampshire Highway Traffic Safety Program with a focus on traffic safety enforcement and safety education. I don't know if you guys remember this, but this came straight from the strategic governance discussion. So I think it's important to know that we did review the strategic governance and pull some of those items from there. So that was a very good program as well, but we're just trying to pull it in and make it a little bit broader at this point. And we will keep some of those initiatives that didn't make it in this plan as department directives to move forward. So objective 2 under strategic initiative 2, define and implement reporting system for non-emergency issues, sidewalks. It lists all those things. I don't know if you guys have seen it out there. I know Lebanon uses the C-Click Fix software, but it's a way that residents can use their cell phone or something quick to shoot a picture of a pothole or a flooding on a road or something, and it geolocates it for our staff, and it makes it really easy to do. So I think we need to research some of that and find some ways to open that communication between citizens and the department. And it'll create not necessarily a work order system, that might be different software, but it creates that tracking of when things were, we can get it reported quicker and hopefully get it fixed quicker. Objective 3, improve sidewalk system by creating a sidewalk condition index and prioritizing maintenance and repair issues. That'll come into 4 and some of the other areas of creating sidewalk plans and things as we move forward. Objective 4 is improve existing sidewalks and intersections by planning expansions and connections into other areas of town. We may need to hire an engineer to confirm these recommendations. So it's another one that we move forward with and get some help to engineer them when we actually get done. Next slide. Complete a road condition index, very similar to the sidewalk one, with a matrix to aid the prioritization of paving and maintenance. And then we'll research software for continued updates. They have some new AI type software out there that'll read your road conditions as you drive around, but we do think we need a professional road condition matrix built. And it is actually budgeted in this year's budget to have that done in 2024. Objective 6 is establish safety plan to address growth risks and needs including traffic, lakes, waters, and recreation. Kind of goes with objective 7, establish a safety plan to address risks and needs to include varying demographic, unique needs, including children and aging populations. So as you go through, and especially as you look at Appendix C, some of them just like objective 7, I believe, just points to objective 6, or it might be very repetitive. So some of those we may combine into one as we move forward, but those are kind of the things that we looked at for strategic initiative 2. Strategic initiative 3, there's a lot of information, so I'm kind of flying through this. You can discuss it some at the end. Strategic initiative 3 is to implement community education to help prevent emergencies and help citizens better protect themselves. So this does get a little bit repetitive, but as you look through this, what we're really looking at doing is creating a citizens academy to put forward, which will be a class, maybe 2 from a couple departments, once a month or once every couple of weeks, a class from each department to really dig a little bit deeper into what each department does, how we work, things we have to do. So people can really start to learn what happens in departments on a day-to-day basis. But we wanted to go farther than that. And so we've really talked about each department taking another class or 2 throughout the year to just open it, not for the Citizens Academy, if you will, but for more general public education. And we can expand outside of our departments. I know the DPW's partnered with Upper Valley Region, the Lake Sunapee Upper Valley Regional Planning to do the stormwater class they just did. They did a composting class. So doing a little bit more of that. Police was talking about doing a class every year or so on scams and how to protect yourself, and just things that would really help our residents that are not necessarily our day-to-day operations, but things that'll be educational for the public. So, with that kind of covers the first 2 objectives there. The third objective is to grow our social media presence and outlook. So we'll be looking, and you'll see that in some other places, ways that we can better streamline and use our social media to get the word out. And So on public safety, I actually put two of these in, but this is what you see in appendix C. So this is just a repeat. The objective public safety 1.1 is to complete the construction of the public safety building. And then this is kind of how it breaks down. I wanted to put these in here just to give you an idea, and I did one in each section to show kind of a work through of what we're looking at. Under the time section, we put the year or date that we're planning to try to get that done. In the staff area, it's the staff members that are going to be assigned to that. In cost, we kind of did the Yelp thing, if you will, instead of going out and getting actual estimates for everything that's gonna be 2 to 3 years out. We just put down whether we thought it was gonna be minimal cost, moderate cost, or something that could be quite expensive with the $3 signs. And as we get closer to that project, of course, we'll get the actual estimates and dollar figures before we budget. And then the partner thing is if we need to partner with an outside agency, you know, completing final design, I put yes, because we're working with the architects and the construction people to make that happen. The no's are things that we can really do in-house. And so if you go to the next one, I put this one in because I thought it was really big. It's what I talked about. It's completing that comprehensive needs assessment. So I just broke that down in creating that citizen subcommittee to research fire EMS, make recommendations to the board next year, and then implementing a select board plan through the budgeting process and what we need to do 25, 26. So as you can see, that broke down cost wise too, that creating a subcommittee and making a recommendation costs almost nothing, a little bit of staff time, but to actually implement the plan, that probably, I put 2, but it could have even been 3, depending on what they recommend on dollar signs. Move to the next one. This is the next strategic objective, development in town culture. The statement is Enfield will leverage a town culture that remains connected to nature and community in a cohesive balance. We hold a service mindset focused on citizen connection, citizen engagement, and the use of public spaces. We're more than a place to live. We're a place to thrive in our diversity of people with an emphasis of a town that is connected to one another and supporting various civic groups and needs. Enfield will provide the spaces to connect with each other in our unique natural environment. We will do this deliberately through planning for infrastructure, zoning, and promotion of our values as a community. So I'll go through this one fairly quickly too. The 4, we came up with 4, or you guys came up with 4 initiatives here to harness the power of TIF, prioritize affordable housing, implement complete streets, and standardize town branding. We may have added the branding, but can't remember if that came through the committees or not, but strategic initiative 1 is to harness the power of TIF for public benefit and invest in infrastructure. We're making a commitment to hold quarterly TIF meetings. I know we had a while where TIF meetings were not happening as much. Lately, we've been meeting monthly, trying to get the plan done, but I think on an ongoing basis, quarterly meetings will be fine. Unless we assign a specific project or something that needs more than that. Objective 2 is to educate the public on the power of TIF. I think that's really important. We have the TIF out there, but I don't think people really understand how it works and how we can use that to benefit the town. So an education campaign will be important. Objective 3, study and work on the floodway issues. If Eric wants to talk about his list, that's one of the things we're starting on working on now, but I think those floodway issues would be a huge benefit to the town if we can find our way to navigate around those. And then objective 4 is to develop a current TIF plan with specific projects that encourage development, including a calendar of project priorities, which they've been working on. I may have that one as an example in here, but that's one of those things that's just an ongoing goal to keep that plan up and running. Next, objective 5, determine the viability of an urban compact along Route 4. We talked about that a little bit this year. Unfortunately, that project fell aside, but I think it's something that's probably important to research a little bit more before something comes up to see if it's something we want to do or not. this is one of those projects that I think may be able to be assigned to TIF to kind of manage and run that program and see if that's something we want to do or not. Objective 6 is to use TIF funds for the connection of rail trails and sidewalks and access points through town to create a more walkable community. Strategic Initiative 2 is to prioritize affordable housing with future use of town properties. So Objective 1 is create a housing authority or commission to assist in the development of housing in and around the village area. Objective 2 is to create a plan for town-owned land that can be used for housing. Objective 3, hold a charrette to define what a complete street will be for the town of Enfield and differentiate if the definition has different requirements in different parts of town. I'm pretty sure we all agree it probably will, but Main Street, complete street will be different than Boys Camp Road, complete street. And what does that look like and what do we want to do? Objective 3.2, write a policy or plan to upgrade streets to meet this new definition. Objective 3.3, develop a village infrastructure plan that has buy-in from all stakeholders and incorporate the complete streets and safety enhancements with supporting improvements like parking areas. And then 4 is the public education on all of this. You'll see that over and over throughout the plan, but I think it's important to educate the public on what we're doing and why we're doing it. So here's an operational plan for the economic development and community development. Again, I just told one of those to develop the 5th plan. So complete a plan, as Eric talked about, for 2024 town meeting. And then if you see under time, this is why I picked this one. I have a whole bunch of the little zeros or O's, which is ongoing. So those will be every year, update the plan annually, create a prioritized plan, create a plan for TIF use of funds, and then implementing the plan. Those will just be ongoing over and over and over again. But so you'll see some of those throughout there with the ongoing on there. It's just something we need to continually do. It may not always be annually, but it'll be every couple years or something in there. So. Communication and community involvement. Again, what we wrote, Enfield's unique experience will be promoted and emphasized to our own citizens and visitors through the deliberate communication and activities that showcase who we are. We will also create communication systems and methods that reach as many people as possible in an efficient way. This will promote Enfield's culture, commerce, and facilitate access to civic involvement as much as possible. So the 4 strategic initiatives are what are the methods of communication that we provide access, an economic development campaign, dedicated communication for staff, and then communication training. That was the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and we'll get to it in a minute, but I'm going to jump ahead, was as we got to the staff side and started talking about this, a lot came up about not enough communication in the staff, and there were things that were going on that they didn't know about, benefits that we had that people didn't know about. So it became an integral part of the strategic planning as well to open that up. So strategic initiative 1, create easy methods to communicate by improving existing methods coordinated with best new use methods and for the public to have access to. Objective 1, incorporate more than public safety into the Citizens Academy classes. That kind of came about because the Citizens Academy was being talked about more as a public safety thing. I could probably change that one a little bit now, but I didn't today. I thought about it, but like I said, we're really looking at doing something from every department to make sure that people understand that. And then putting in those other classes, like I said, the composting, ADU, recycling practices, etc. Objective 2, develop and implement robust code red and website notification education campaign to increase participation in using social media, the newsletter, direct sign-up stations at town events. As we saw this last summer, code red worked very well when we used it. And so coming up with the policy and the way that we're going to get that out to the public so we can use it more will be important. Objective 3, develop online fillable and submittable permit applications and payable for all departments and make access a little bit easier to people. And then objective 4, electronic payments taken for all town permits, taxes, fees, et cetera, with payment plans for big ticket items. We'll continue to work through those, but I think, again, making it more accessible for people that can't make it down to the town office during work hours will be very important. Objective 5, develop frequently asked questions section on websites for all departments. One of the other things, I don't know if it's one of these, but we've talked about kind of highlighting some of those questions in the newsletter section. Just, what are we getting asked a lot this month, and highlighting a question or two in the newsletter to help people understand. Objective 6 is implement a public survey every third year to ensure high quality of services being provided by the town. Community can probably come out, but, I think this is something important. I think the town did this a few times, and then through turnover and some of those things, it hasn't happened for a while. We did not budget for it this year, so it might be something that we budget for next year to get a survey out for people to see how they feel town services are doing and where we can improve. Objective 7, research best practices for other public entities and define and deploy simple communication through channels people will use. This is actually big. It might need to be broken into two, but the best practices for other public entities, there's a lot of information out there. I know ICMA put stuff out that, how do you measure your departments, and what do other departments measure themselves by, and how can you use that same data to see how we're doing? So there's definitely things out there that we can use. Objective 8, integrate current practices with evolving best practices that are used, create repeatable messages of value to more citizens. 9, this one has a lot of objectives. Fund new programs and methods for both hardware and sustainable technology infrastructure. We'll see some more of that in the technology section. Objective 10, this is something that we budgeted for this year, is enhance our GIS system to include permits, surveys, and other land use data. We have a great GIS system, but we didn't get the employee side of it when we bought it, and we're going to buy that this year. And then we can upload our own building permits and those types of things right to the parcel data so people can see them. So that'll be really nice to have. Objective 11 is to create dashboards that communicate with the public, showing current performance metrics, including the financial health of the town, crime and emergency response statistics, etc. So that's something we're gonna have to research some software for, but I think it's important that we start to make a more public-facing dashboards and things where people can see how the services are being handled. So strategic initiative 2, deploy an economic development campaign that emphasizes our evolution as a town to create sustainable value in retail, housing, zoning, and other matters of public importance. Objective 2.1 is to complete zoning rewrite that emphasizes development around water, sewer infrastructure and encourages residential development. We've seen that from the master plan. That was a big focus of that. Objective 2 is complete an economic development packet that can be distributed both electronically and print form to educate investors and others about the town of Enfield. Objective 3, use message maps that ensure reaching the public both inside and outside the town. This will promote channel use of our citizens as well as visibility for investment and partnerships. So those two kind of go together, probably 2 and 3, but I think it's really important to get the word out, not only in town, but out of town, that we're, I guess, open for business and looking for people and making sure that people around know that Enfield's here and what we stand for. And then objective 2.4, utilize diverse methods of communication, including social media, print, and signage. All right, strategic initiative 3, utilize dedicated staff to focus on communication, design, deployment, and measurement for purpose of ensuring that the community is both informed and engaged in collective efforts. One of the things we talked about in our retreat was, do we or do we not have the need for a public information officer or someone that focuses on communication? So what we put here in our objectives is 3.1, create a public information officer position to either be added to a job description or a standalone position of the town. I think it's something to look at, but we may be able to integrate it into one of the other positions we already have. Objective 3.2, continue to develop the police department social media presence and improve information available on the town website and newsletter. Objective 3, train staff member in each department on public information disbursement. I think that's important. We kind of have that now, but I think we can formalize that a little bit more to have one person in each department that's putting the messages out. And when I got here, it all flowed through Elisa. We've been slowly branching that out, and I think we can formalize that a little bit more moving forward. Objective 4, create a new government Facebook page. If you guys don't know, our Facebook page now is a personal Facebook page that we call the town page, and they now have official government pages. So I think that's something we need to create and make the transition to. And then objective 3.5 is explore other social media options for the town. We do have our YouTube channel, but I think we can better utilize that and use other social media as well. Strategic Initiative 4, develop and implement an internal communications and training program for employees. So this is where we start to make that shift to the employees and things that they wanted, and we've heard. Create a better written onboarding program, including full benefit review, tour of the town, introductions, and job-specific training program for each department. Seems like at least the past few years, I don't know how long, but we've been so busy in the town office that it's, hey, welcome to the town, here's your desk, get to work.
Wow.
And we need to do a little bit better job of having that onboarding program, not only introducing them to town as a whole, but then introducing them to their position. Objective 4.2, hold an annual seminar for employees to explain employee benefits and benefit changes prior to open enrollment. We had our first one since I've been here this year, and it went well. And I think if we continue to have that, it'll be good for the employees. And then here's just one example again of the operational plan. I don't want to beat these to death, but future sustainable infrastructure. This is our infrastructure section. Enfield will create a sustainable infrastructure that supports the needs of citizens as we evolve and change. We will be deliberate about our services and infrastructure, provide for them, and follow actionable plans. Infrastructure means physical, water, sewer, lines, buildings, parks, and service, recreation, emergency services, fire, police, ambulance, and administrative. So we did focus a little bit more around the water sewer stuff on this one, but you'll see, I think this is a place where we can grow as we move forward, but it's a great start to our plan. Inventory asset management system was a big focus. One of our other initiatives was long-term maintenance planning, and then partnering and sharing resources. That's more of a regional approach. So strategic initiative 1 is to create a robust inventory system to manage our aging infrastructure and identify opportunities for sustainable expansion. The objectives, creation of a sustainability and asset management program for all town infrastructure. I talked about doing a shared one before, but I do think we need to improve our asset management software somehow and how we're going to do that. Objective 1.2, develop new and improved water sources, possibly using TIF to aid in funding. That's something we've been working on, but we need to continue. Objective 3, to place backup power at our wells. As of today, and what's in your packet says to place backup power at least one well, but after what we went through this summer, I think it's important to have backup power at more than one well, even though it's hopefully for a shorter amount of time. I do think it's important, but starting with one will definitely be the starting point. And Jim can speak to that more when we're done, if you would like. Objective 1.4, complete sewer line repairs to minimize stormwater infiltration. You guys got some of that report of what was happening. And then objective 5 goes along with that. Create a PR campaign to educate the public and reduce some pump connections to the sewer system. You know, pumping stormwater and things into the drain is exactly what we're trying to solve with the infiltration, so, putting water into the sewer system that does not need to be treated just costs us more money. Strategic Initiative 2, develop a long-term maintenance plan and training program to ensure resiliency and continuity of operation. Continuity of insurance. So one of the things I was gonna point out a little earlier, you'll see a lot of this in this first few years is creating plans and building plans. And it's important that we do that, one, because a lot of these we don't have already, but as you guys know, we also have a lot of building projects on our plate right now. So spending a couple years planning for the future while we're continuing to complete these projects, it's a great time to complete this planning and to prepare for future projects. Objective 2.1 on that is training and cross-training departmental duties and software uses. We're a very small staff. I think I've said that before, but with that, we don't have a lot of succession or cross-training in our ranks. Everybody has their job that they do and they know how to do it, but if something happens to them, we're often scrambling to try to learn how to do their job. So as we move forward, I think it's important that we train and cross-train in all departments to make sure that we have those different skills covered. Objective 2.2, create a robust training plan in each department, including performance metrics to ensure increased and consistent training. Again, like I said, we often just put people behind the desk and ask them to figure it out and help the best we can, but having that actual training plan is important. Strategic Initiative 3 is to work with our partners to share resources. Something we've been working on. We've reported to the select board a little bit, but Objective 3.1 is to identify ways to strengthen mutual aid and regionalize services and equipment. 2 is to create a regional inventory of equipment, including future equipment. We've started on that a little bit of, some of these bigger items that only get used once or twice a year. If we do need to purchase them and can't contract somebody, if we all kind of take a piece of equipment and share that, it's gonna be a lot cheaper for everybody than everybody trying to purchase their own. And then Objective 3.3, find ways to work together to enjoy economies of scale. So that's something else we've talked about is RFPing some of the things like striping and crack sealing and things that are hard to get contractors to come up here for a small town. But if we coordinate with Hanover and Lebanon and a few other towns around, we can make one bigger job instead of multiple small jobs. Then again, we just break this down. Go ahead next. Yeah, technology and efficiency. Enfield will harness the power of technology to enhance the services we offer and create operational efficiencies and sustainability. Understanding the technological divide, Enfield will focus on user-friendly programs and increase in training for staff and residents to ensure the programs become a tool to increase usability and not a barrier to information. So I think that's really important as we move. We're moving farther and farther into the digital era. It's pretty much here. We continue to print some things and try to get the communication out, but as we move to online permitting and different things, we need to remove those barriers to the best we can and offer training and offer tools that make it as easy as possible. We have one here. We need a plan. We don't even have a plan yet. So long range technology. I did want to, you can go ahead to the next slide, but when Ryan was here, we started making the transition to a full Microsoft platform, changed some security, some different things in our technology, and we've come a very long way. Last year, actually, we had a lot of computer issues, and it was because we were right in that midpoint where we were using part of this platform and part of that platform. We bit the bullet and made the jump and swapped everybody over. Things seem to be running a lot smoother now than they were a year ago this time. And now it's time, as you've seen already, and as we move forward, to start to really look at how we can use technology to make make the town run more efficiently. So we'll really be putting an emphasis on that. So part of that strategic initiative one is to develop a long-range technology plan that focuses on efficiency and ease of use. The objectives for that are purchase software to implement digital permitting, work orders, and other processes to make services more convenient. Rob can talk about it a little if you guys want, but digital permitting is something I hadn't looked into when I first moved in here, but it's a little bit pricey and it got pushed to the back burner a little bit just with everything that we have going on. But it's definitely something that makes getting a building permit and zoning permit and those things a lot easier and more accessible to people. And then a work order program is going to be really important, especially for our building and infrastructure person if we want to take care of our buildings correctly. The email's good, but as you guys probably know, you get lost in email often and things get pushed to the side and it's not very easy to track. So objective 1.2, install or partner with an ISP, which we kind of have done, to install fiber in parts of town that do not have it. I was pretty happy when we talked to Hub 66 to hear that 93% of the town has high-speed internet. I think some of that may not be as high speed as we think it is, but it's out there, and I know we have a couple partners that are willing to partner with the town to complete this build out. We're still waiting on the grant news to see if they got that grant, which should be coming any day. It was supposed to be earlier this month, but as a lot of state grants, it's getting pushed off a little bit. Objective 3, to complete the transition to cloud-based programs to reduce the need for on-site servers and hardware. We're getting there quickly. Most of our software has now been transitioned to cloud that can be transitioned to cloud. We do have a couple programs, one of them being some state programs that we have that do not offer a cloud solution. So we will have to have servers for a while, but as we replace those servers, they can get a lot smaller moving forward. So, and then our IT people actually talked to us about a way where we can put that in some sort of virtual server. So we'll be looking at that.
You can toss almost anything in a virtual server and go around that.
Yeah. So, objective 4 is to implement a training program for staff and residents to encourage the understanding and use of technology. That's important for staff and residents. But that's something else as we start to implement it, and some of the software that we do have now, we need to learn how to use a little bit better. Then objective 5 is to focus on technology with an emphasis on cohesive resident interface and accessibility. We have a lot of great software out there. Sometimes it's cost prohibitive, but there's a lot of stuff that can go right on your website that the public can interface with, not only to do permitting and those types of things, but to look at what happens when you move the budget around a little bit and how does that affect my taxes. And sometimes those things are very nice for people to see how that works. So there's part of our operational plan. I use the GIS there, but demonstrate our current GIS during the Citizens Academy and how it can work and things you can find, especially if we upload more documents, create marketing materials, purchase or repurpose computers for public use in all of our buildings. We just got rid of a lot of computers, but we'll be getting rid of some every year. And, setting one of those up in the buildings for the public to be able to use as we get more and more digital would be important. And then they always have the library. And some of those classes that we said we're teaching could be technology classes to learn how to use those services, and then research and possibly implement a town of Enfield app, which would be very beneficial as well. With that, the next steps would be for the select board to take a little bit of time to digest the strategic plan. We're going to be doing a little bit more crossing the I's, dotting the T's, doing some proofreading, but staff will create plans to implement this plan and incorporate it once adopted into daily operations. We'll work on creating those KPIs to be developed and work with the board so we know what we're measuring and why we're measuring it. And then the strategic plan will be reviewed annually to make sure that the targets are still the same, to review goals and KPIs, that they're being reached and that they're what we're wanting to measure. It'll be updated as needed, and then operational objectives for the year will be reviewed. So that's the end of my slideshow. Did ask the department heads to be here so you guys can, talk to them about the process or things that they plan on working on and put in the plan. Overall, that's the work we did since we met with you guys in June, along with everything else that we've been doing in town. Russ has been a great sport working with us and pushing us along and helping us get these documents put together. And like I said, we gave them to you in draft form to be able to present this, and we'll be reviewing them before final publication, and we can discuss at this table whether we publish the appendices at the end, which are the working documents as well, or just the actual document, so.
Questions from the board? Do any of the department heads want to add how excited they are to work on this or something else? Jim, I know you got picked on at least once during the presentation, as did Rob.
No, I think it's good stuff. I mean, we talked a lot about, like the Citizens Academy and some of that kind of stuff, is that we spend an awful lot of time. Someone comes in with a complaint, you have to teach them what they're complaining about, so then we can have the argument. Because quite often they don't always know, much about zoning or about, road design or some of these kinds of things. And I think that the couple of sessions that we had with regional planning and whatnot, I thought those went pretty well. We had pretty well attended people that came, just got a lot out of it. And I think that would be, good. And certainly the complete streets, there's a lot of talk. The last couple storms I've had, 90% of my complaints have been sidewalk related, and a lot of it is the sidewalks are, not consistent. They're different widths. Our machine is falling apart. It's a little too big for the size of the sidewalks that we have, and so it would be nice to kind of have a blueprint on some of these things moving forward.
The machine does not enjoy that disaster the state built in front of Jake's.
Yes, yeah.
I saw it doing the rodeo and it was like, I hope he stays upright. Because of not because of poor driving, but simply because of the way that
Yes, yeah.
island is, or I mean, I guess we can call it an island. It's weird.
It's something.
It's something. It was not our choice. That's what we're gonna call it. Not our best, not our choice. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Rob, or?
We just add that I'm really appreciative of the way that Ed has approached this. I know that when I first came on, it was sort of at the tail end of Ryan's project for strategic governance, where we had department heads sort of doing a lot of work. But we really found, I think, that it really needs to be like a two-way street coming from you as the big bosses of the town. We're gonna do what you want us to do. And so I think this has worked a lot better to have this sort of dialogue between us. I really appreciated the retreat that we did on a Sunday back in the summer. Thought that was really productive. And I think the results of what you just saw are from that sort of two-way dialogue. So I'm excited about it. And obviously the department heads here, we really want to serve you guys as the executives of the town and what you prioritize and what you want us to do. So this is really, I think, been a really productive exercise for that and to get to more of what we all want. So.
Thank you. Chief, you have anything you want to add?
No, just excited to move forward, and I think that there are some really good ideas that could potentially see exponential growth within the town as an organization that could make us that much more efficient and more open to our community.
Any other discussions, questions, or comments from the board?
There's a lot here.
It's yes.
Good work, and I know I need time to, especially after seeing the presentation, to really read through it. There's a few things I've got questions forming, but nothing that I've got immediately.
My big thing was looking through all this one, wow, that's a lot of work.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like,
How do we prioritize this? And the comment that I got back, I actually only got one back, but the comment that I got back from staff was, can you move this project forward in your timeline? Because we plan on working on this sooner. And I thought, oh, we're list lumping too much too fast, but there's a lot in there, but I do think there's a lot of stuff that intertwines with each other and it's.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you're kind of forced, you want all the communication stuff to be on one section, but we really, there's pieces of it in different places and. Cause that's where it makes sense to think about it, right? So.
Well, and I do think after going through it, I don't know how many times I went through it in the last couple of weeks, trying to proofread it and put the presentation together and stuff. There are definitely places that I think over time we can merge together, but I think it's really good targets right now and it separates it to show we were thinking about it in multiple places. And I think that's important at this time as well.
I think it's important for the folks present and the folks who eventually might watch this online to know that the draft is 138 pages. So as long as seems like a long presentation, but the body of work is much longer and more comprehensive. So I think the other thing that I might ask the board is if anybody has an interest in submitting comments, to send them to Ed for incorporation. And if somebody wants to get out their pen and help out a little, when you've stared at a document enough times, you might not see things that need editing, because your brain has seen it so many times. So if anyone wants to contribute in that way, I think it would probably be welcome.
Well, in the last 3 appendices, really, we didn't spend a lot of time proofreading those because they were working documents. So that's part of that discussion. If we're gonna make those public, we need to take that time to make them more professional, but if we're just sharing them here to remind us what we worked on in those retreats, then we can maybe not spend as much time on that and present the actual public document. And
We really want to connect with the public in this document.
Mhm.
We might want to condense it somewhat.
Good point.
I think that appendix C that you were referencing is the piece that could be potentially pulled out, since that would be an evolving document that's more of a working document.
well, and I wanted to make that, you may have seen all the little references on the
Yeah.
slideshow, but if we budget something in public safety, I would like to be able to say we budgeted this per
Mhm.
PS 1.2. That's one of our initiatives that we're doing. So it can just reference back that the money we're looking at spending points right to the strategic funding document, and that's why we're trying to.
Yeah, and I think that if it doesn't, then it's not that you couldn't pursue it. It's, did we miss something? Should we be updating our strategic planning document? Or is this truly one of our goals for our town? Because there's a lot of nice things that people want to do that aren't necessarily a need and don't conform with probably our overall service level.
And that's really important on the grant front.
Yeah.
We can chase grants in every direction, but as you guys know, free money is not always free. So the staff time incorporated, the cost sharing, all those things could lead us down some rabbit holes because we got free money. So having this strategic plan and the master plan to look at and say, does this align with what we're trying to do? And is this a priority to us or not? Really just opens that discussion, like you said, this isn't in the plan. Is it important enough for us to spend time and money on, or should we say thanks, but no thanks?
I think it's very hard as a leader in any organization to ruthlessly prioritize things based on your goals and strategy, but it's also very, very important because you can get lost in the weeds awfully quickly. So I appreciate this as a tool to kind of guide us and bring us back. And I think it will be good during our discussions too.
Will you forward the PowerPoint to us?
Yes, I can do that. I can definitely do that. I can post it.
That'd be great.
I just don't like to do those before I present.
I appreciate that.
I think it makes sense. That way we can have the video up too, and people can make the choice to educate themselves a little better before they make an assumption that might not be correct. I do want to open it up to the public here. Go ahead.
Yeah,
And what-
Brad Rich, just a comment and a question. I've been involved with a lot of strategic plans, and that's a ton of work that you guys put together. So my congratulations, very thorough. Obviously, the trick is going to be the measurement and the management, which will, as you know, will take a ton of time. My question is it appropriate to add an objective that talks, a financial objective that talks about efficiencies and cost savings and what we could do as a town to implement some of these things in a cost-effective manner as possible? That's a thought.
I think if I could just take that one really quickly, when we did our retreat in the morning, there were themes that cut across all of these different strategic initiatives. And finance was certainly one of them. So you can call finance out as a separate strategic initiative, but because it cuts so solidly through every one of them, I think you're really better off assigning it, and instead of making it a silo by itself, having it be a cross section of all of these.
Well, and it definitely can be something, I don't want to say we're not doing it now, but it may be more of a focus. in the future.
Could be a sub measurement on each one of the things. It's just in the past, I've done that. It seems to work because it's a focus. I think in the town, it would help that the town would see that there's a financial component. You know, we're watching it and being concerned about that and that type of thing.
Well, I definitely think the technology and efficiency section will bloom into that. Like I said, we started going down that road and the only thing that kept coming up was there's a ton of technology that's gonna make us more efficient and more cost effective that we don't have. I mean, things that we should have software for, we're still using Word and Excel and trying to make our own.
Thank you.
While we're talking a little bit about, I'm sorry, you had your hand up before I did.
Well, are we on the
You're
same?
responding to him,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd like to.
Yeah, talking about financial aspects of a plan, and maybe I've been on the budget committee too long, but I'd be really cautious about having anything in here that implies creating a new position right now, just to be practical.
And I think everything here is a suggestion to look at things and make an evaluation. So going back to that financial piece, you know, it talks about having accessibility, reducing uses of servers and implementing technology. So a lot of those financial pieces are in here. Talk about economies of scale. So that is all finance. Like, you don't have to slap people with the word finance repeatedly for it to not be, to be finance, right? So I think that's an
I'm
important
just
thing.
thinking how it plays.
Oh, yeah.
There's value in being explicit that that's.
Mhm. And maybe, I don't know, maybe people don't know
Yeah,
economies of
both.
scale is finance.
Correct.
Maybe it's too confusing
Right.
for a layperson.
We may be able to clarify that a little bit in the beginning, that it's a major focus that incorporates all.
We could certainly do that. Go ahead, Dave.
Dave O'Bank, my, what I add to that is saying that I think that there's real value in being very explicit, perhaps even in the introduction, that, cost effectiveness and affordability are a major part that's incorporated throughout the whole plan. And then following through with that.
Now, most of the track, all the detail you have with $1 sign means that you have staff, you're doing it internally anyways, right?
Yeah, and if you look at most of it is all very low cost. I mean, like I said, most of this document's planning, it's the next few years and we have enough big projects on our plate to.
The general theme, just to summarize the thoughts here, right? And I think you and I talked about this. I said, people are gonna say, you know, how much more is this gonna cost? And that's gonna be a concern, so maybe there's a way of calculating, the efficiencies that are gained over time based on what you're gonna have in the budget. So some of this stuff you're not gonna price out until you get there anyways, right? But
A lot of this is planning, and then, like I said, as we're looking at the projects and the implementation, that's gonna, once we make that plan and we research the software, then we'll have to do the research to figure out how much that's gonna cost, and can we actually implement it in the year we set, or is it gonna have to be pushed out?
That makes sense.
And is it worth buying? I mean, some of it's gonna be expensive, we may say, that'd be really nice to have, but we can't afford to do that.
I think that's an important part of the evaluation. You did a nice job. Well, not every single piece is on the slides, outlining the expectation is pieces get evaluated. It's not an idea isn't a given. It's okay to have ideas and evaluate them, but it's not okay to bind a future board or the budget committee. So this gives you your framework, and then it leaves the committees and the folks to do their job, I think, is the goal.
yeah, I mean, you all said what you wanted. and the staff went back and said, this is how we deliver it. So yes, there's gonna probably be some picking and choosing, and there might even be some shuttling of things as you go forward.
I think to John's point, the budget committee is going to be, you know, the ones making the financial decision at the end of the day, whether, how and to what extent they're going to agree to fund something, so. That's
Yeah.
just smart.
But make sure you tell them how much they're saving in efficiencies.
Right, right. And that's all part of good decision making, but yeah, there is a piece in the history that kind of explains a little bit of the financial, but I think we could,
We can
Maybe.
expand on it.
yeah. And just say, and it might fit even in the process on the lead in where you're explaining one of the reasons why we're doing this is financial. So, that's good. Anybody else here in the public who wants to make a comment? Folks online? Okay, then I think we are set with this portion of the meeting unless anybody else has anything further to add. Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Did you have any?
Do you want me to leave now?
No,
Well,
I think- you wanna just bill us some more? I'm kidding.
No, I would just say, honestly, this has been a total pleasure working with all of you. When I come to a public meeting, I'm not sure what I'm gonna get. You guys have been gracious, very engaged, not sure what's gonna happen with the staff. This team was all in and really wanting to kind of dig in what we need to do. It's been a pleasure working with you. The detail is there, the thoughtfulness is there. Yeah, so thanks for letting me do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch out for the deer.
You want me to
They
leave
don't
now?
cross near the signs.
You can leave that. You don't have to.
How long's the meeting last?
Well, it depends on how excited. Yeah, we're going on to town meeting warrant review.
I'm gonna.
So I'm gonna screen share that.
Yeah. So before we go into town warrant review, I just want to remind everyone that this is a draft, so don't panic. Right? This is how we have conversations and ideas. So there are gonna be some things on there that are holdovers from last year, just so that we know we have to look at the yellow piece and update it. So nothing's set in stone. The budget committee hasn't
Everything
voted.
in yellow needs update.
Yeah.
Just
Nobody's-
Throw that out there first.
Yep,
Everything in yellow.
don't get.
That is a holdover.
Yeah.
So we'll skip over the positions
Yes.
and just go to the first one.
I think the other thing to throw out there, so you guys know there is a little bit more we're gonna talk about tonight, but if it came in our heads, we threw it on there for discussion purposes. That doesn't mean everything on here we're proposing to be on here or should be on here. It's more for discussion purposes. Let's talk about each of these items and see it. We want to-
If you wanted to go, that.
Some of them we can't take out, so there's also that piece.
Well,
So
there's
Article 1 staying, folks, moving on. Article 2. I had an interesting conversation with Ed just because we have such an interesting way in New Hampshire of dealing with this anyways, quizzing him a little, so I don't know if you want to just explain.
Yeah, really, I'm gonna say this is housekeeping, but it is a decision to be made. Our town clerk has been serving as the tax collector ever since I've been here, and Elisa can explain for how much longer before that. It is and is becoming very common practice across the state. I just seen forgot what town it was now, but I was looking at another town. Often, and, you know, they do this. There was actually a thing on the municipal managers listserv about salaries for tax collectors and town clerks, and most of the ones that came through said our town clerk / tax collector gets paid this much. So it's the same person in most towns right now. And this is just a little cleanup of that makes that position compliant officially. And something to put out there, talk about.
Do you think with the growth of the town in the future, that we'd have to divide the positions back up?
I actually think the bigger the town gets, the more important it is to merge the two.
And we still would have a deputy.
In Claremont and I believe Lebanon, they're merged, and you go to the town clerk's window to pay your taxes and do all your stuff.
So you don't have to read the sign and go to the right window.
I don't know in Lebanon.
Chances are operations would pretty much stay the same way that they are now.
Yeah.
How they divide their jobs between the official voted and the deputy would be the same.
And we currently have one person who holds this two separate positions,
Mhm.
and she oversees the
Yeah.
other staff members in each department, so
That makes sense.
probably keep going that way.
You guys have any questions or thoughts on this?
I think you said what prompted this being added, but I might have kind of missed it.
Well, you know,
What
what
we've been doing.
it is what we've been doing. And as you start working on a warrant, you see various publications and then they say, well, this is an article you could, it's like, oh, yeah, we could.
Like I said,
So
when
it's,
it went through the managers list there, most of the comments that came back was our positions are combined and this is what that person gets paid. Cause they were talking salary.
And what are the benefits of that?
We're already doing it.
Yeah,
we are,
Really, to me, it gives the people one window to go to when they come in town hall. You walk up and you can pay your taxes and
Pay your
register
taxes.
car and do all your
Register.
stuff.
it strikes me that the car registration piece, just overhearing the work that's going on, can be very complex. I wonder,
all
can
complex.
one person really do all of those things?
They have been in
And
the town of Enfield for years.
Mhm.
Don't register multiple dogs at once. Just leave it, and come back for it. I think
Yes,
It-
they can.
So we have no financial repercussion for Article 2.
just formalizing what we're already
It,
doing.
it could be described as a housekeeping matter, really.
I think of it as a housekeeping matter, but
I think
That
we're
doesn't
not,
involve a raise?
she's already held both positions. Yeah, she has.
Well, there we go.
right? Want to go on to Article 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one's still a work in progress, which is why that number is highlighted.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much to
No,
talk
probably,
about that one.
okay, that one can be a placeholder until we know what the budget's committee's intent is. Okay.
The one thing I can update you guys is we are working on the fund balance number is really what I'm working with now. We have a number of one-time projects in this year's
Should be yellowed
budget
out as well.
that if
It
we,
should, yes.
if we can do, if we can do a little more of unassigned fund balance this year, we can lower that tax rate impact and putting them on one-time projects is important. The one that I forgot for the budget committee, which was probably the biggest one last week, was Fed Street,
More than the
75,000. If we can move another 75,000, that's gonna make a pretty drastic impact on the tax rate.
As long as we stay within the
Drastic might not be a
targeted fund
good
balance,
word, but it's gonna move it.
Yeah, per our policy.
Percentage.
So this is exactly what we've been talking about for 5 years. And
Yeah.
You get your fund balance where you want it to be, and then if you have more, you use it for one-time projects.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to be in. the
Well, and
general
this
fund.
year, we're looking at dropping quite a bit in with
Yeah.
so even if we don't move up, you know, inflation and budget's gonna make that number go up. If we can stay the same on a year that we have a major tax impact
Mhm.
and smooth that transition a little bit, it'll be good.
Article 4?
This is the police recruitment retention bonus that we talked about here. This is just, creating the fund and putting $20,000 from the unassigned fund balance from the positions that were unfilled in the police department to start that fund and make sure we have enough to pay out those bonuses without impacting the general fund budget if possible.
Since that's a public warrant article, do we need to provide any more description to align with Roy's plan of?
We can put some in the budget narrative.
Yes,
We will definitely have a report of why we're doing that.
yes, the narrative didn't list it, so a paragraph in the narrative.
Yeah.
I think could be helpful.
Yeah, we'll build the narrative after we approve the budget.
Yes.
Or the warrant. We don't usually build it
Right,
before.
once we.
Yeah.
Just as long as there is a descriptive narrative.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
I
the
think that would
background
be
is
important.
for us. I mean, some of it might not be in the narrative, but this is just a tool for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but it
narrative
wasn't
will be
listed with the
much
narrative. We haven't with the
longer.
narrative.
This
yet.
is not
No.
the narrative that
Right.
will be in the town report.
Right,
That'll be much more expanded.
yes.
And I think,
And then we'll present it as well at town meeting.
target range, just like every other fund, like looking at yeah, what the target should be, how does it grow, you know, is it based on COLA, but, yeah. So that we have, because someday one of us isn't gonna be here and someone's not gonna remember what our target was. And I'm sure,
I think that'll change. This one will stay I'm gonna say relatively small, but, you know, we usually don't, or since I've been here, we don't have more than 2 positions open, so. At the very most, I would say at this point, 40,000, which would be 2 certified bonuses, but
even if it's just documented
Really?
in the narrative, so we can look it up later.
I'm really confident or comfortable with 1 full-time or 2 non-certified. That's enough to do those, and if we needed to pull a little bit more from the budget, we could do that.
5?
5 was put in here specifically for the purpose of just talking to the board of whether we should make adjustments to those or not. What I told Kate is my problem with this article in every town is people just pick a number. There's no data behind what number you have. We did quite the research through our contract assessor in Claremont, interviewing other towns, talking to people, figuring out how they came up with their numbers, and everywhere it was just, we picked a number. So usually, and I have already gotten it from Norm, we look at these numbers and we compare to our surrounding towns and see what other people do, but they're arbitrarily picking a number out of the air too. So, we can do that. We can raise them if we want to say, hey, this is what they've been and we know we've had inflation. Before we really do something long-term, which I guess it's never long-term because you have to keep putting the article out there, but I would like to do a little bit more research, but we don't have time to do that this year to see if we can standardize it. I also told Kate today when we were talking about this, that part of that research we did in Claremont, we came up with an equation that used some different factors through the town and inflation and those things to give you a number based on what you have had of whether your income should go up, down, those types of things. So I think we can implement that after the fact, but I think we need to have some study of where it should be before we implement that equation to move with the factors that move through our
How
economy.
old are these numbers now, the ones we're reading?
You know, when they were last approved.
I cannot remember when they were last done. They're that old.
They're
elder-
old.
I know that we do the veterans one relatively frequently, but
The veterans we had to change recently
Yeah.
because of
Stable.
legislative changes. This one, no. So it's been quite some time.
Jesse, 2 sets of numbers here. One, the amount that the elderly can be exempted from, the other is the net income, et cetera, right? Do we choose both of those sets of numbers?
Looking at Norm's numbers quickly, and I will put the word quickly in there. If you guys were to do something up to a 10% increase, it would still fall below what the average or median is for towns around us, which I would be comfortable with that. One thing that's always asked is, what's the impact gonna be on the taxpayers if we do that? We could probably do a little bit of number based on some things we've done in the past to show what it might be, but you never know. It really depends on who applies. You raise the income level, it's gonna open it to a new set of people that can do it. So it's really hard to quantify what the impact will be. It just allows some people to ask for the exemption, and if they get it, then that exemption is transferred to the taxpayer. as a whole.
Yeah,
Taxpayer.
I'd be in favor of capping it at 10% anyway.
Well, we'd have to put in there
a number.
what number we're gonna raise it to, so.
I guess I have a couple of things on this. One is that anytime we give someone an exemption, no matter how lovely they are and how much we love them and want them to age in place, we're displacing that amount in taxes onto the rest of the population who isn't getting it. So, when we're having people who are voicing some pretty serious reservations about how much taxes are going up to, you know, cover regular operations and previously voted projects, I think it might compound things. It's just something to think about. the flip side is too, that we also have a human services officer, so we could, well, they could go and work through and do the paperwork for this. There are other offsets they could be getting. There's fuel assistance and all that, so it's not a given, but I think there are, it's not like they won't get any other help and we're impoverishing someone.
Well, we want to help them. Another thing I stated was, we also talk about the new younger generation coming in, trying to afford a house, doing those things. And
They're
this
never
really
getting
shifts the
access
burden
this.
to them as well. So it's something else to think about, that
Good point.
increases their taxes as they're trying to get started.
Just leave the numbers the way they are.
Qualification for this, rebate, if you will, is by application only. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have to apply and they have to qualify with the income levels and those types of things to be able to get it. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
a little careful with the word rebate. I mean, it is a rebate to them, but as Kate said, it's a transfer of tax to other people.
Exactly, yes.
It's not.
And just to put a number on it, $46,000 assessed value at this point equals how much?
I'd have to add that up.
I mean, it's not a lot. It's,
$10 is your tax rate.
yeah, 46,000.
A little lower.
I think it's only about $55 or $65.
Down rate's what, $8?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
46 times 8,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what does it do?
$368.
$360? Okay.
Mathematics.
That's what I was wondering. Okay,
But it doesn't exempt them. It's only the Enfield portion, right?
it's
Not-
only the Enfield
Yeah.
portion.
So I guess what would also be just interesting in general is if we could get a quick list of like, I'm just making up the number completely, so no one quote me. Like in 2018, we gave 5, 2019, we gave 6, 20, we gave like 2, just so that we know, or are we giving 25 and 30, right? So that we could graph a line and kind of see, do we have increasing need? I know that people change and the ages change and their economic systems, but is there some kind of line where we have an idea of how many people might even be applying and qualifying?
I'm not sure if we have it broken out, but we definitely have the total and it's. in
We
the
have a
report
total that
here.
we could say it is currently,
In-
I won't throw a
in the
number
town
at it.
Report, we say
right.
we gave out this much in
I
elderly
bet you
exemptions.
she-
So therefore, we could look at that number and then we could weigh the 10% against that, for example.
Fine.
I would all but guarantee she has how many people
Mhm.
applied and.
Yeah, we don't need to know how many and those particulars, I don't think, just knowing the total, and therefore we could play with a percentage increase if we wanted to.
I mean, and we know, I think we all know.
Yeah, but you have to know that a percentage increase in this won't be a percentage increase on that, because it'll change how many people can apply.
Yes, yes, yes.
If you change the
So
net,
you can't just say if we up this by
Income
10%, it'll
net.
probably be this, because that's probably gonna be wrong.
I mean, just, this is my take on it, but if you have net income of less than $36,000 combined, or 26 as a single, and you have assets under $70,000, you're gonna be hard pressed because you probably don't own your home, you probably mortgaged to the hill and you're in big trouble already, which is scary. And not what we want to have happen, but I don't know, I don't have a good sense of how many people this would help versus not help.
It's either that or they own their home. It's paid for.
No, but your
But
assets,
it does not count their liquids.
it says
That's,
excluding the person's residence, so, I mean, yeah. Boy, it's a tough one.
Yeah, no, it's always a hard conversation. So we can definitely get those. We can leave it on for now, come back to you with that,
but you will have to make a decision at the next meeting because I have to get the warrant finalized so I can get it in the town report.
When, just off the subject in total, when do you have to have the warrant finalized by?
Well, you need to decide on the 6th, or if you need to make some adjustments after the budget hearing, you could do that, but then I need.
By the first meeting in February then?
Yes.
Okay.
Short-term rental
Make a note
ordinance.
that we just send that information out, so they have it, not waiting
So-
for the next meeting.
Yep, and so we can be thinking on it and having conversations with you if we need more
Yeah,
for
right.
ourselves. That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, short-term rental ordinance, we know we have some information coming back from legal, so instead of making a decision right now, shall we wait?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I think you guys have decided you want it on
Yeah.
here, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be just a few tweaks.
Right.
We can write the wording to get it on here.
Okay.
We can tweak it for a little bit after that, but not very long. Cause it needs to be published as well.
Article 7, this is somewhat of a housekeeping for discussion.
So this,
That goes with.
ties in with the capital reserve funds, discussion. We have a number of them.
They're in your package.
I
So
mean,
really to break that down, all except for one, the assessing, are things that we've been purchasing and have purchased with the CIP fund. These were established prior to the CIP fund, so ambulance, fire trucks, land, all those things are different reserve funds, and we've used the CIP fund for those purchases, so we recommend doing away with those individual funds and rolling that money. Either, I mean, per DRA, it goes into unassigned fund balance, and then from there, we can either use that in the general fund, or we can move that amount of money to the CIP fund, which makes a little more sense to me.
Yeah, what's the process for moving it in the CIP? Is that also a town vote or?
We could do it, yeah, and we can do it,
can you do it in one warrant article
we
where,
can do it in one, can we do it in one fail swoop in a warrant article?
Yes.
I believe we can, and that,
If we can, we should, because CIP has effectively replaced these,
Yeah.
but these are very clearly intended for those purposes.
The
And what
amounts
we
that we'd move would be the column as we see available to spend, not the immediately available amounts.
yeah, well, and it would also help us with that writing off stuff, and which we found, we need to work with trustees of trust funds, but we can move that off the books and it's gonna be available to spend. But this would do away with most all of that. We can take it. The one thing that would happen, just so people know, is it would fall into the general fund this year, the 111,000, whatever. We could take that amount of money from undesignated fund balance, but it wouldn't necessarily fall back into the undesignated fund balance till the end of 2024. But we would know that it's that cyclical loop.
What is the purpose of the land acquisition fund?
To purchase land.
Under what terms?
For municipal purposes.
it's like,
So it's not
including-
earmarked for any particular,
I recall that it mentions some other things or other municipal purposes, so it's pretty broad.
I guess, I think that the CIP team takes a really good hard look and does a lot of nice planning, and it seems silly to have another kitty of money to me out there where it should just all be commingled in CIP to be part of a plan. I like the planning aspect. Like, it's a nice idea to have like a little savings fund, but we don't plan that way anymore. We much more comprehensive.
Oh, and
I agree.
where does the land acquisition fund come from?
It was started quite a long time ago,
You'd have to put money into it at town meeting.
but we
Okay.
have not been putting money into it. It's just sitting there.
So it doesn't come about when people take their land out of current use or anything like that?
No. Money was voted into it at one point and has not been for a long time.
Well, and these, to tell you the truth, get forgot about, and we buy stuff out of CIP. We just bought an ambulance and there's ambulance money.
Right.
Really should just be falling in there, and then it's one pot of money that we know we're working from.
Yeah,
So we could recommend as a board to, put these to follow through, as you say, and close out these multiple accounts and move this money into a CIP fund.
Yeah.
All right,
And you do have the option, you could move all of it, even the $186.57 from a reappraisal, even though that's not truly,
right, but it's an odd amount, so.
it's an odd
just
amount,
easier to
and
clean
it's,
things up.
it's a very small amount in the scheme of things. So you can do these all in one single article
Right,
and then have the same number.
so it'd be an article supported by us if we wanted to do it, to move this money into the CIP.
I mean, I think it's a good conversation to have with the folks in town so that they understand. I mean, they do have a choice, right? It goes in front of them, we can explain, and if they want to continue having a little bit of a piggy bank here, there and everywhere, then we do it, and if they want to put it in CIP, we do it. It's not a hill to die on, in my opinion. I think it's a good idea to ask them the question. How you guys feel?
I'd like it written that we recommend it, that it goes to the CIP, and that we show, what our vote might be for
We
that.
can't write it that way, but we can definitely explain it.
No, in the narrative, I believe we show
Yeah.
the vote that we might take, yes.
So this actually should have had the select board recommends, because it's a monetary,
Yes,
it's a moneyed article. So this one and putting money into the CIP from unassigned fund balance in an equal amount also would have your recommendation in the budget committees as well.
yes.
Okay, yep, we'll get that little highlighted. That's a good one. Thank you. Going down to number 8. This is another, do we want to do some housekeeping?
So we had a loan authorized borrowing way back for, I think I have this here.
2018.
Yes, 2018. And a number of the projects have been done. Crystal Lake Road improvements were done. The fire station and Shed Street garage furnace and insulation were taken out at town meeting. Basketball court was not done. It was looking for half of it from grants, which we never materialized. Whitney Hall parking lot resurfacing was in here. We have not done that, and
We have,
we
we have
have,
money
TIF
set
money.
aside from TIF for that. That is in this year's budget.
and which would not affect the tax rate. Transfer station office trailer replacement. I'm assuming that's been done. That's the rule. But we don't need that now. And community building security locks and upgrades were done out of the budget without borrowing the money. So It-
We're gonna be revisiting those puppies.
that's true, but it doesn't seem $3,000 is worth taking the loan out for.
No.
So we can rescind the authorization, and then if we need to borrow money for any of these things in the future, we can go back and ask the people if they want to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of just holding on to it.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think,
To me,
Good
it
plan.
was just as much a transparency issue as
Yep.
it is that, to have all this money hanging out there that we can borrow, that people have forgotten about or whatever. It's,
if we're gonna do it, we should be going back to ask for it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be more transparent. I agree. Article 9, TIF. I like the floodplain engineering, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, so that's probably gonna be 2 articles, but
Yep.
to approve the
Yeah.
TIF plan
Mhm.
and then another article.
Change the
to-
nomenclature.
What is floodplain engineering exactly?
It's really along Route 4. A
Yeah.
lot of those properties are in the floodway.
Right.
Mhm.
I've gotten a quote from Pathways, we will RFP it out, but we got a quote from them that for $25,000, they can look at the engineering and see if there's any projects we can do to change the level of the floodway
Okay.
and to go to FEMA and ask that things get changed. And there may be a couple projects that come from this to help us do that, or it may just be you need to file I think it's called a LOMA now and go argue with them that this really shouldn't be because we did these other projects.
Right.
And it's really all coming out of the original MPAC where we sort of got some offhanded comments from folks from, I think it was the Pathways engineers saying, hey, you could probably solve this floodway problem. And they had ideas. But you can't, we need to figure out what the real deal is.
Right.
Yeah, we've had multiple engineers come forward going, hey, this project or this project could solve that problem for you. So we decided it'd be worth having it studied and see what project needed to be done and what those would cost. And
And-
that would really make that section of Route 4 developable, which would
Right.
If it's successful, it increases the value of the land on those lots. Are we allowed to have them reassessed at that point?
we can look at it if it changes.
I mean, if this is successful, it changes the value of some of those properties.
I don't think you can pick and choose. You have to,
Yeah.
particular properties
When
to
we
do
come
that
back
with.
to a revow, we can.
But they
we-
could have changed
We
their
go and
views.
look at 1/5 of the town every year, so we're doing a little piece every year.
I think bigger
So
than
there could
trying
be
to
areas.
pick at those little empty parcels would be the fact that, we've had some bigger companies and stuff look at those and walk away because they're in the floodway.
No, I know that. I'm just looking
Purchase and
to
develop.
garner additional tax revenue if we help them out through this issue.
I think you'll get it, but coming out and picking empty parcels to try to reassess would be pennies.
But I think I've had some
And-
conversations with Rob and also businesses who were interested, who went and tried to figure out how to finance it and could not get the financing they needed because it's in a floodplain.
Yeah.
And it's a business that probably wouldn't be a big deal if it got wet, but it's just part of how life works when you're financing something. So be an interesting piece if people were to do it.
The yellow highlighting on that is mine, because I think it's too specific.
Mhm.
I think it should be broader if it's gonna be added as a project. Should be floodplain improvement,
Or-
including engineering or.
Or do you say
Something.
floodplain and stormwater management or something?
Or something broader makes sense to me.
One of Rob's tasks from the last meeting was to figure out proper wording for how to
Great.
work that out.
Great.
So I know he's working on it. I can probably help.
That note.
Help out with that.
I
Yeah,
actually called and left a message with him.
Yes,
all right.
That's good. Dave, your question?
Just a point of information, are those all town-owned properties or are they private
They're
properties?
not down.
No, they're not.
They're all private.
So the town would be investing in private property.
No,
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 I said,
no. No.
so the town would be looking at our floodway issue that affects most of Route 4 through TIF funds, which is what TIF funds are for, to improve the value of the district.
They have to be spent in the district. So. Right, so we'll be revisiting that with probably new language. Article 10. I think we'll be revisiting, fill in, oh, wait, was on new. She's wear her glasses when she's tired.
You're gonna highlight the sums in Article 10, or are those fixed sums at this point?
Dan,
Well, I can't read from this far back.
you're on CIP.
So,
Still can't read this far back.
so it's,
Stop.
I'm okay.
so it's
Oh.
the total sum of $600,068. That includes, the extra nickel,
Right.
26,200.
Yeah.
But then 46,900 to come from unassigned fund balance,
Right.
not taxation.
Because of
Because
the money that we got,
the insurance money we got for the
Right.
total chipper.
that we paid the full.
It went into the general fund, and now we can take it out, put it back into the CIP fund.
Okay, and we now, and then by taking the land use and putting it into the land use one, the land purchase one, that gives CIP money back that they spent on the public safety building
Yeah.
that they did get reimbursed for.
Yeah, we went round and round in there of, do we give the 26,000 back, do we do this, and we just
Right.
said, you know, if we dump all that in, more than makes sense.
Okay.
And that makes sense.
And it's-
So the 553,168 is the currently calculated amount.
That's the general taxation amount, yeah.
Well, the general taxation amount, the amount is $600,068.
No, I know that because
The
it
Which derived
553,168 would be from taxes.
from taxes. that's
Yes. Yep. Okay, and then, Article 11 for discussion is an idea, but it's,
This is just a random idea.
Mhm.
Not,
When is the treasurer position up for reelection?
Last year,
last year. It wasn't that long ago, so
I think it's a 3-year position. I don't think
It
it's
is a
up until
3-year
next year.
we could look
It's
at it.
not up this year.
No, it's not up this year. I think it's one more year
Could be.
and then it's up.
And this isn't a reflection of
I thought she ran
any
last
personal
year.
issue or
No.
job they're doing, but more a reflection of, do we want it to be, a person who has some kind of credentials that are decided upon, through a process within
know if the-
operations.
Person currently holding the position intends to keep it or has expressed an opinion either way.
she
She's,
plans to keep it
she
as of
plans to
now.
keep it.
As of now, she plans to keep it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a danger that the question really is to ask the voters whether they want to look at, how they qualify somebody. Is it, I'm gonna call it a vote, which we know sometimes it's a popularity contest, but really, getting a treasurer in Enfield isn't a popularity contest. There's not like 30 people lining up to be treasurer.
No, the scary part, and this is a good year to discuss this, because no one is up for election, but, the scary part about the elected position is someone could run that can't balance their own checkbook, and legally in charge of all town finance. So having someone that has some sort of qualifications, I believe, is important.
I personally, from a financial standpoint, like the kind of idea that the check and the balance, like right now, we're fortunate enough to have somebody who does know how to balance a checkbook. And is responsible, and it's not that easy to find someone always, so the idea that we could make sure that that check and balance, we're all humans, so sometimes we see something and we're like, that needs to be checked on, and I like that final check coming from someone who is qualified. I guess that's my personal opinion on the subject.
Now, the only thing I wouldn't want to do is deprive the person who's currently holding the position from the option of continuing because we've moved it to
The only way that would happen is if you didn't appoint that person.
if they didn't choose, well, I'm saying though, if we removed it from the roles and therefore they can't be reelected,
Reappointed.
But you could be.
reappointed.
But they could be reappointed.
I mean, I think if that was the case, we have probably some big fish to fry that are a bigger problem currently, and if that's not the case, we don't have a problem. It's just, how do we want to do it, and asking the town folks how they feel like doing it.
We're gonna ask them
As
whether,
long as the person holding the position now is made to understand very clearly that there's not a reflection upon her performance.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody to leave just because they're all of a sudden upset or disappointed or what the heck.
Yes,
I
this
agree.
this absolutely has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we know that.
Yes.
Well, we
Make
can
sure
let
that
the-
person
Make
knows
people-
that.
And make sure the voting public knows that as well.
Yes.
This is a person who's a
Bingo.
valued member of our team, just as to ensure continuity in the future.
This is the exact opposite.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we would like to
Because
keep
you
that.
are certified, we would reappoint you if
Yes.
you want the job.
Yes. We would really like.
so do we make a choice between selectman or town manager, the highlighted section? Is that what we're being asked?
That's what you would be
That's
asking.
part of it.
That's part of it.
You would have to.
I mean, other than doing it, yes, other than.
Yeah, I would move that it be the town manager because he
I
probably
would
has.
move that it'd be the select. board.
Select board, this is something that needs open discussion, it needs, this is,
It would definitely be recommended by me to you.
Yeah. I think
Approved.
well, I think that's where you get your check and your balance. The finance office in the town and operations works for the town manager. This person's appointed by us. And the goal being they all work together, but you get your check and your balance.
That's a really good point too, that I shouldn't hire the AP person and then appoint the person that does the checks and balances.
Right.
I think we don't need to worry about petition articles till they arrive.
You do not
So-
have to worry about those.
Yep, and those will come in, and then the only thing we have to do with those is put them in order.
Yeah, we're gonna, if you guys are okay with it, we plan on putting them in the order that they are handed in.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, unless there's something that's like an aha moment that really should be in a different order, I think, yeah. I don't know. I don't pretend to.
You can
They're gonna
decide
be-
that when you get them, but.
Yeah.
I would put them on personally in the order they're received, and then you can do what you want with them
Yeah.
as a whole.
yes.
Okay.
Riff.
Unless anybody else has any items there, I think let's move down to town report, dedication and cover. I was remiss in not remembering to send the picture we took at the groundbreaking ceremony, so I just sent it to you earlier.
And that's a darn good thing.
Do you want to see it?
I would be adamantly opposed.
You don't want to
I'm
see the
not,
picture?
I'm not in love with it either. I love
Wait,
this
wait,
because
not
it's got
this
a
one.
picture of my truck right there.
Do you want to see a picture of the one we took as a group?
This was supposed to.
Oh,
be
as a
color.
group.
Yeah, no.
I've seen it in color
This is a whole
online
much
and it
nicer
has a
in
nice,
color.
it looks
Could
exactly
you
like my
show
truck. So
them
I'm all in
the
favor.
two
of it.
photos
Yeah.
I sent you?
I like this picture of the building.
No.
I do like it.
Is it in
No.
color?
I
I
can't.
didn't.
It-
oh,
it
doesn't
is. I have
have-
seen it in
Oh,
color.
okay.
Different account.
Hang on, wait, I can't.
It's online in
Oh,
color.
yeah.
No, it's not that.
No.
That's not
Oh,
what
there it is. Yeah, there it is.
No,
That's
I
great.
like
I like that. Yeah.
If you like that one, you,
Black and white.
I would say, or we can hand down the,
No, I'm
No.
not in favor of that.
that's
personally.
fine. I didn't know if you wanted to see it, and I think that it's okay. I'm not
Okay.
saying have to.
I'm good with the building.
Okay.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure
I
you
think
all
that
had
is
choices.
nice.
Okay, and then, in terms of the dedication, we talked a little bit about not voted on anything, but possibly dedicating it to MFAC 1, MFAC 2, and everyone who's worked on these projects along the way. I don't know what the wording would be. Is that goes with the cover, acknowledges their years of hard work? I don't know how we word it, but just an idea. Like last year we dedicated the report to La Salette for their contributions, so.
There's a nice narrative that went along with that too.
Mhm. We don't have to, if you guys,
I actually kind of like that idea. Eric, what do you think? You were on the original committee.
This is like so far outside of my skill set. I think that's fine. I mean, a lot of people in town have put in a lot of work.
They have.
Many
And I'd like, in the
years.
narrative about it, I'd like to see the specific names listed. Because there were a lot of them.
here's the danger. We've had so many
Yeah.
people work for so many years. Are we gonna miss, I'm not saying we can't, but it's gonna be,
We're gonna miss some.
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna just I'm gonna pick on Phil Cronaway because he's not here
Yeah,
to
you're
defend
probably
himself. But he worked on this, and it was a substantial portion of his body of work he did for our town.
Mhm.
You know, are we gonna forget somebody who works with, I know Dominic has done a lot.
Yeah, well,
Others,
again,
select board
it
members.
goes even to
Yeah.
the preschool that raised $100,000 towards the library.
I didn't
mean,
even know that.
This is full of people who have been working towards this project in a lot,
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a
that's
lot of
true.
different ways. So I don't think we can call people out
You're right.
specifically, just,
No, you're right.
Or what if
We
we
can't.
say, so
it's too
people,
broad.
people who worked on the project.
All those who have
And
worked.
donors, and in the narrative, we could reference sending people to look at some of the past information online without they can find their own information. Without trying to name everyone.
You're right. We have to
I-
name all the, library groups that looked at it from the original design, which goes back
Uh,
15 years.
there's all the people who did the charrettes. I mean,
Yeah.
that we could be in the encyclopedia range, you guys, so I think yeah. What are you up to, Dave? What do you want?
Well, I'm just thinking about it. I'm not taking away from the work that the various people and impact and the lead up to that. But there's an awful lot of other volunteer committee members who have also contributed substantially to this community. And, highlighting, one committee or one group, ignores those people.
I was sort of thinking the same thing. Does that water it down too much? I don't know if you say to all those dedicated people who volunteered.
Well,
Look at 2010.
Yeah, all the volunteers in Enfield were.
Oh.
Yep, the last time we dedicated a report to an individual was to Dave Bofei in 2019. So we did call you out. Yeah, you got it all to yourself with no all people matter. I know, but so we rotate through groups and couples.
Well, I just
Yeah,
do it consciously. Don't do it by.
oh, I don't think it's an accident here. That's why we're sitting at the table, hashing it out. Does anyone have any preferred language?
I like the way you kind of put that, to dedicate it to all the people that worked on either this project or both projects that are coming to fruition.
Yeah, I agree.
All committee,
I just put
volunteer,
all
don't,
people.
all people?
All people.
Yeah.
Have or will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it ties it in with the cover photographs.
It does, exactly.
and do we want it to do, are we saying Whitney Hall and library and public safety, or are we gonna just go Whitney Hall and library for this year and?
I'd do public safety because I think it would be repetitive if you wind up doing the same thing next year.
Or are we done, or do we have our job done for next year? Ha ha.
I see.
Maybe we're getting our assignment
twofer.
turned in.
It's the same people
Yeah,
for the most
It is
part.
the same people.
right.
True.
We can have the picture.
We can
all
still
set for
consider the
next year.
picture.
Yeah, and maybe
And then just
something,
do a
At this
dedication
time
that's
next year, there might
unrelated.
actually be something there to take a picture of.
and there might be something big too that comes along that we can dedicate it to, so, okay. Do you got enough to make some language for us, or do you want us to hash it out? Me?
The chair usually writes that.
That's right.
I'm gonna ask Chat GPT's opinion and and then smooth it over. We'll make it work. Okay. I will, work on if you guys have something you feel should be in it, would you please individually send it to me, what we've done in the past? And I will try to get it into good language, decent English. And then, hey, John, if I ping it over to you, will you edit it and make it
course.
nicer? Awesome. I love it. Go team.
As long as
Okay.
It doesn't end in a preposition, right?
No, it's okay now. That's the
I
crazy
only
thing.
mention that because some of the
That
strategic
is
meeting
something upon
lines
which
ended
I-
in
Yeah, no, for
preposition.
some reason, I learned recently that it's now okay, and I was like, wow, I spent a lot of my days trying to not
Get
be.
rid of that preposition.
How do I get this preposition out of
Exactly.
here? And then someone told me the other day, and I looked it up, and I was like,
You know,
it's like the two spaces on the typewriter.
I still like two spaces.
I like
I find it easier to
same thing.
read.
Same thing. Ooh, and
Otherwise, it kind
Oxford.
of blends because that dot is so tiny.
And there's no such word as irregardless.
And the Oxford comma. Okay, so then we
That
can
is a
go
big
on
deal.
to acceptance of donations to the community nurse. Oh, wait, hey, I'm gonna just, while we're doing town report, I wrote to you guys all individually and asked you if you had anything that should be in our piece of the town report. No one sent me anything exciting, so I'm gonna write this, and bless you, it can go to you guys to get circulated, and then it can get fixed up. Because I'm just gonna look through our agendas and pull out the highlights without telling the stories that belong to the other departments. I think I did that last year and John nicely fluffed it into something better than I wrote, so. Go through that route again. Is that due on Wednesday too? Cause that's not gonna happen.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Actually, when it comes to things like that, if you can get it to me by the Monday following the public hearing, in case you need to incorporate something that happened at the public hearing into it. So you get a whole few
I
extra
get a
days of the
couple extra
weekend.
days. Oh, I
Yes.
need those extra days. Okay. This is a lot of writing assignments for someone who does technical writing. Okay. Cool. So on to acceptance of donations to Community Nursing Program Trust Fund, $775. So required. I'll accept a motion to accept with thanks.
So moved.
Second. One of the-
All in favor?
Aye.
Am I
Abstention?
correct in interpreting that this now represents 3 years of funding? Because we talked about 30,000.
Getting there.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is incredible. The motion carries being no opposition or abstentions. Administrative items, there are none. Ooh. I know, you guys were gonna do public comments. Dave,
Talking too much today. It was mentioned at Impact, last week, or the last one that we and touched on briefly here, that there was a gap of about $100,000 between the approved bond funding for the community building, not the community building, the town office and library. And I understand there's also a gap of about 200,000 still remaining for the emergency services. So what are the plans for those gaps?
Well, the gap on Whitney Hall, like we talked about, was continued management to bring that down. We think we may have found some places. We'll continue working on that, but I'm fairly confident that we'll be below that when we get all said and done. If not, as we talked at the select board meeting, that we'll have to figure out how we're gonna fund that moving forward. Part of that may be not fully refurbishing the elevator as we planned on, or depending on what that amount is, putting some money towards that. But we're definitely within striking distance, talking with, Bread Loaf and our contractor. We believe that we'll be able to manage that down and get it under budget if we needed to get the project going to do that. We can't get there without starting and saying what happened.
public safety, you said during your town manager's report, you were continuing to work on that, so. we
Yeah, it
expect an
was,
update.
I think the meeting before the one you attended, we were at $400,000 over through some budgeting and some things, not really changes to the building. It's down to 200,000 now. That does not incorporate $100,000, $50 to $100,000 that we expect back from New Hampshire Saves, which brings that down to the 150. So we're in that same ballpark as we were with Whitney Hall. And we'll be looking to continually look at management for that, continually look for grants that might be able to help us offset those. Do the things we need to do to make sure that those come in as close to on budget as possible.
Lindsay.
All right, hi everyone. Just a reminder for tomorrow that that I expect to see everybody at least at the end of the evening. I know that some of you have work except I know Alice won't be there, but I'm hoping that I'll have at least one or two select. Well, I need to have at least one there at all points in time, and preferably two. The way the statute's written, there's a lot of different interpretations. Some towns think it's a quorum, towns think it's all, but I definitely need to have a select board presence at the primary all day tomorrow. So I know that there's different schedules and I can't make that schedule for you, but looking forward to seeing you. I will need all hands on deck for those that are in town to be counting ballots, as we will probably have to put eyeballs. We'll definitely put eyeballs on every ballot. And there's several, we'll have a lot of write-ins, depending. I mean, who knows? You never know which way it's gonna go, but any questions about tomorrow for me?
I just want to clarify that I'll be there from 8 to 2.
Perfect.
Wow, great.
And I will be there
Fantastic.
from 8 to 5:30. Friends of Mascoma's annual board meeting was booked a year ago. And then I drew the unlucky straw when the state said this is the primary. So from 5:30 to 7:30, in all likelihood, I will be at that meeting and I'll be returning by then. I think we'll have broken down most of the stuff and I'll be available to count. And there will be food. So while you might want to go home, fill your wood stove or whatever, we can probably offset each other, I think, so that Lindsay has her folks.
Lindsay, given the
Yeah.
number of write-ins that we'll be counting, are you planning to get us any extra help?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but not too much. Unfortunately, the more people that are there, the more people then we have to manage and maneuver. We've got 2 deputy clerks that are coming in. There would be the town clerk. I only have 3. Actually, I think we have the ballot clerks. There will be 3 that are there all day. One who is normally there all day had throat surgery, so she'll be coming in to help. And I do have one other alternate ballot clerk that's coming in. So we should be able to like really divvy it up and knock it out. But there gets to a point where there's too many bodies that it becomes then we have to add up all these little piles. So one of the things that we're not going to worry about so much is breaking down all the booths and all of that, so we don't have to have all that noise in the background, because I can do that on Wednesday. We have the space all day on Wednesday, so I'm not going to worry about that unless there's a way to do some things quietly, but we should have plenty of bodies for the most part. So it's just a matter of, once we get that last ballot in, kind of setting up teams like we did before, finding some scratch paper, getting set up, and then we'll have to, because the divider in the gray box is not always reliable. So we have to separate, because it's 2 elections, so we'll have to separate Republican ballots and Democrat ballots. And then we'll just have to look through for write-ins. And it's more, I think we're going to see more write-ins on Democrats than Republicans. It's also possible that we will see more Republican votes than Democrat votes, just depending on voting strategy, which is, there's lots of voting strategies out there. So we'll see what shows up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I think we can knock it out pretty quick. And once we do that, and I like to do the double check like we did last time. So, like one team will count something and then maybe switch with another team so that we just have verification. And then once that happens, and we'll try to have everything that you all need to sign and all that. That, you know, Wendy and I try to work on that while you all are counting. So we're not worried about breaking down and having to maneuver all of that. So I think that's it. Get your rest. Bring your glasses.
Glasses, yeah.
Maybe an extra and your favorite pen. And
John and I.
yeah. And I'll see you all tomorrow.
Wait, okay, just a second. Yep. Go ahead, Dave.
Just a question for Lindsay. Do you have an organized team already for Wednesday, or when is that planned?
Yeah, I'm good on Wednesday. I'm good on Wednesday. It's not so, but
Okay.
yeah, but thank you.
And in terms of folks, I just want to give everyone a general decorum reminder. There's going to be a lot of folks flowing in and out, and so we always get assigned jobs, and you guys do a great job making sure folks stay in the electioneering zone. Lindsay wrote a nice email explaining what people can and can't wear in terms of election.
Oh, yeah.
So Peril, just so if you have any questions, you can refer to that or ask Lindsay, because she's done a nice job outlining it in advance. And just remembering that it is winter, so there's gonna be people with some mobility issues, and also folks in the electioneering zone are gonna, you know, have a little bit of a responsibility to fend for themselves in what section of snow they do or don't have. So I wanna make sure everybody's fine.
So just let me add to that, Kate, real quick. So even though we've had candidates who've dropped out, it doesn't matter if their name's on the ballot, you know, but if people give us any pushback, I mean, that's for me to deal with. But you know, basically I'm not messing around. I'll take their name and report them to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General can do whatever they want with it. And for electioneering folks, I will allow them to use the downstairs bathrooms. And we just want to make sure that we get people out. So let's not doing a lot of conversation, especially about town meeting, our warrants and budgets and all the conversations that people want to have. We're just not having them tomorrow. So I know that's hard. It's nice to see everybody. But I really want to keep the space clear. You're in to vote and you're out. Versus, and if we allow one person to hang out, and you know, it's a small town, people like to, and I like that friendliness, but let's do that at a slower election, not federal ones, not federal and state. I don't have any capacity to mess around, and I'm not playing. So I wrote a nice email, but I didn't use a lot of exclamation points on purpose. So I wasn't particularly
in the back and out the front, Lindsay, so that we all know. In the back and out the front.
Okay.
We're going like one. Are you going in the back door and then out the front door?
No, they can go out. No, the front.
Are you allowing them to go out either way?
Yeah. So it will be, because the front steps were treacherous and there's no way to cut back to the parking lots without having to go all the way around. Because they also have to go by the supervisor's table. The supervisors will be upstairs for this one. For the general, the supervisors will be downstairs. It'll be even more, and everybody will have a job at the general. But no, everyone can use the main door, which is the back door. And we'll keep an eye on the steps and the ramp there too. So
I'm getting you guys all name tags so that because not everybody in town knows who we are. And so the question I have for you individually, and you can answer me separately, is do you want your photo on your name tag? My answer is always no. The PD has a very nice thing that makes them, so you give Roy the photo when he does it. So if you want a photo and you want to give it to me, I have to give it to him tomorrow morning. I can take
no photo for me.
Okay. No photo. Perfect. This is easy. So we'll get you some kind of name tag. Something I've been meaning to do. Okay. Anything else under public comment? Dan.
This is something that's on the informational item. It's inconceivable to me that it took the auditors 13 months to put out an audit report. I mean, I'm sorry, but either we need to prioritize the audit, or we need to find auditors that are going to prioritize the audit. But for it to take 13 months, we're now in January of 24, and they are giving us an audit report for 2022.
A good one.
I just can't. I mean, I'm sorry. Either they put us on the back burner because they know they can get away with it, or they've got too much business, so we need to find different auditors.
Just a question on that. So it seems like they went to hang out with the budget committee a while ago, though. Did they have a draft or?
Just the draft.
Yeah.
The draft, and then it took them that, because I saw them right before Christmas and was very confused about what they were doing in the office in.
Oh, well, they're
starting.
starting on the next audit.
So we got this after they start.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be silly, like it was, I was trying to mentally figure out like the overlap, so, okay.
I
Can we
mean,
write,
Brad and I come from the business world.
oh, that you can't
okay.
do this.
In the business world, they have to have the audit out within 90 days of the year end.
Mainly because we have to submit it to the
Maybe because
state,
we have to submit it to the state or the feds,
and they don't screw around.
right?
They don't feel bad for anybody about anything, no. Okay, that's fair feedback. We can probably look into
I
it.
think there's anything on your end that would prevent
I was gonna
a
say 9 to 10
a more
months is normal.
stringent schedule? You're the one who has to prepare it for them.
Almost.
So is there anything on your end that would prevent
I don't-
insisting on
No,
a
we
tighter
don't.
I
schedule?
don't do a great deal. I do, reporting on fixed assets,
Right,
and all our vehicles and depreciation.
Yeah.
And we have the, management letter that we
Right.
do, but
They're postponing,
most of it's then.
so there wouldn't be anything that you folks are aware of that would preclude us from asking them for a tighter timeline next year.
Yeah, we can see what they can do it in. Like I said, I've worked for 5 different municipalities and 9 to 10 months is normal. This was a little longer than normal, but
We actually
You know
had,
why?
we actually had, one of the attorney letters, they have to give a letter, and they took 2 months.
Yeah, I mean.
It's not
same
a
thing
regular
happens with-
attorney, it's a
with
different
me,
one,
And you have to go to the attorney and say, look, you gotta respond to the auditors and it's gotta be this week. I mean, you have to do that. But
Mhm.
wow, different
no,
world.
it's pretty normal and there's not many auditors out there that do government finance audits. They're all well overbooked and because it's such a different world than private finance. It's
there aren't enough CPAs in the world in general, I will say that, that's,
Well,
can we,
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously, thank you all. As a, does anybody have food allergies? I'm making you lunch, because I've almost got it done. But before